this thing on? Because it's getting ready to be on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bell Ringer. My name is Greg. Your guest name today is Randy Harris, CEO of Lighthouse Technology Services. On this episode, we talk about what Lighthouse is, what they do, the type of companies and industries that they service. We talk about the ever-changing landscape of technology, the need to upskill tech talent, and Buffalo's ecosystem at large. We also talk about Randy's experience of having lived in a few other cities, moving back to Buffalo, and what he enjoys about raising his family here in Western New York. It's a really great episode. Thanks so much for listening.
Lighthouse Technology Services' mission is to introduce companies to the right technology professionals and the right technology solutions at the right time. We're a technology-specific staffing and recruiting firm, and we also have an IT services division.
So tell us, maybe the uninitiated, a bit about the type of clients that you're servicing.
Yeah, so the two divisions we have an IT staffing and recruiting division, and that side of our organization mainly serves large or enterprise clients. We do have some mid-sized organizations that we serve that are looking for like an IT or a technology professional to join their small technology team. But most of the companies that we serve are the largest organizations in the Buffalo region in Western New York, and then we have clients outside of the country. But we specialize in contingent workforce, which is really a lot of project-based contract professionals. So technology works a lot like construction. When you're building a house, you need somebody to come in and help with the plumbing, or an electrician to do the electrical. Technology works the same way. So building an application or making updates to it, you need specialized technology professionals to do work. And then once that work is done in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, then that's it, the project's over. And so we work a lot with contract professionals who are looking for that type of project-based work. And we place a lot of those professionals at many of the largest companies in Western New York. And then we have separate from that, we have an IT services division that actually works with a kind of a different size group of companies. It's outsourced IT, so we tend to work with a lot of the small and mid-sized business community. And that service, we're actually industry agnostic, so we work with all kinds of different industries. It doesn't really matter the companies, just as long as they have a kind of a robust technology infrastructure needs. But we tend to do a lot of work in the manufacturing community in particular, and in the services industries. So those two industries we tend to do a good amount of work in, and that's specific to the Buffalo, Niagara region. And it's very rewarding work, because as you can imagine, especially going through the pandemic and coming out of it, there's a lot of small and mid-sized companies that maybe didn't recognize how reliant they were on technology until COVID hit. And so we've been really able to do some great work there with some wonderful businesses in the community, and help them using technology, navigate through the pandemic and then accelerate out of it, so they can get more done, or take better care of their employees, or do all the things that technology can empower companies to do.
As companies of all sizes become more and more reliant on technology and realize how reliant they are on that technology, I'm just curious, how important are these companies, and with your role, how much emphasis are they putting on like cybersecurity, and how much are you helping folks with things like that as people, realize that that's something they really need to address, like you said, kind of across all industries?
Yeah, it's a good question. Cybersecurity is an interesting one. The pandemic actually put more stress on companies, especially small and mid-sized companies, when it came to cybersecurity. So up until a couple of years ago, it was really the personality characteristics, at least this is what we saw, the personality characteristics of the leadership at the organization. So if they were concerned about cybersecurity risk, then they would invest in putting in the proper technologies and systems and processes and people to kind of tackle that risk. But there was a lot of people who they looked at it as a Band-Aid, or it's never happened to them before. They've never had like a ransomware attack or an instance where cybersecurity was a real problem for them, and so they kind of ignored it. Now, because of some very high-profile instances in which a large company got hacked or breached, and then the attack got connected back down to one of their vendors, these larger organizations are now requiring cybersecurity insurance coverage for all of their vendors. So even the smallest companies that maybe weren't as concerned about cybersecurity for themselves as an organization, in order for them to do business with a large organization, they're now required to have cybersecurity insurance in place. In order to have cybersecurity insurance in place, the insurer wants to see that there's appropriate cybersecurity protocols being put in place at the businesses. And so now you have a whole host of companies that are coming, whether it's to us or maybe to other IT services partners that they're working with this concern of they're trying to get coverage and they can't because they don't have the right systems or protocols in place when it comes to cybersecurity. So now, post-pandemic, especially with so many people working from home, working remotely, or doing business remotely, cybersecurity is becoming much more mainstream than we'd ever seen it before.
We've talked a bit. You've mentioned how industry agnostic some of your work can be. I know just from knowing you and members of your staff how much emphasis you put on being visible in the Buffalo community and really playing like an active role. You as a leader, just tell us about why that's important to you, kind of from a top-down approach.
Yeah, so I would say, in part because of the industry that we're in, and we're biased because of what we do, that we have this belief that more technology in place at companies and organizations is going to be better for those businesses. And that's just because it's been our history that the companies we work with, we've watched them grow and they put these investments in technology. That's why they're working with us, is because they're investing in technology or technology people. And then we're seeing these companies grow out of that. And so we're of the belief that, the more companies that invest in technology and systems and people, that the better their companies are going to do. And that's a good thing for the community, right? It spurs more economic growth. It creates more jobs. All the types of things that go with, companies being successful. And we want to see that for our community. So within our team, we're very much Buffalo boosters. Like, we just love our city and the community that surrounds it. And so we want to see the community be successful. And so I think that's, for us, we know that the more we're out there in the community, the more that we're visible, the more that we're championing, business and businesses in the community, we think that that's going to lead itself to more awareness about what technology can do for companies. And if people get to know us, whether it's our brand or us as individuals within the organization, we think that they're going to listen more, and we're trying to be educators. And so if all those things happen and people, because they've seen us in the community or they've heard us or they trust us, if they want to open the doors to having a conversation and we can help better educate them on what technology can do for their businesses, whether they use us, they purchase from us or buy from us or use us as a supplier or not, if they listen to that education, we believe that we're going to get through to people the importance of technology and what it can do for them. And if they listen to some of these things that we're trying to preach, we think it's going to help their companies and thereby help the community.
And so you're having that conversation with companies to preach the importance, obviously, for future growth. The other side of what you guys do is the talent recruitment for these tech roles. You're heavily involved in our Be in Buffalo talent attraction campaign and, a big Buffalo booster, like you said. And a lot of what we, preach to people is every company is a tech company, and you don't have to think of yourself as this like computer wizard to eventually have a role in tech. I think my brother was a Marine and then did a couple of years in HVAC and now just started going for to be a full stack developer at a coding school. I mean,
Yeah.
what conversations are you having? You talked about the companies, but the individuals, because we need to, really create this talent. We need to upskill people, attract people. So there's not like an easy solution. So as you're talking to folks and trying to place people, make hires, what conversations do you have with the individuals on the other side of the coin?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So there's a couple of different ones that we're having. So first, you got to remember that this isn't all people, but a lot of folks within the technology community can be introverted by nature, right? It takes a kind of special personality to sit in front of a computer and crunch code all day long. And so the very act of getting out there and being known in the community and meeting lots of different, whether it's other technology professionals or hiring managers, that can be challenging for a lot of people, can be challenging for a lot of technology professionals. And so you've got some incredible people that are very skilled and can do great work and be impactful on businesses in our community if they could just be better known in the community. And so part of the work that we do is really just trying to help be a champion for some of these skilled professionals and get them introduced or connected to other wonderful people and businesses in the community. And so those are people who are already here in Buffalo, trying to be somewhat of an agent for them to get them more introduced to other opportunities and other places that they could help. There's another piece of what we do, which is the talent attraction, where we're talking to lots of folks that are outside of Buffalo, right? And we see all kinds of different experience, all kinds of different stories of people on why they might be looking at positions or looking at Buffalo in particular. So we run into a lot of folks who have some sort of tie back to Buffalo. It could be family, maybe they went to school here, they're fans of the Bills, all kinds of things. It's really interesting. And so we love being recruiters for our community. And if we can identify a skilled technology professional that's in another community that's either looking to get back to that connection in Buffalo, or maybe looking for the type of change and community experience that Buffalo provides, we have all kinds of those conversations on a daily basis to try to attract people here. So, both of those things are happening at the same time. At the end of the day, people want good jobs where they can do impactful work and be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, be connected in the community, whether it's if they're on their own or they're bringing a family along, a place where they feel like they've got a really good footing underneath them and a good experience for themselves and the ones that they care about around them. And we have all of those wonderful things in Buffalo. And so, I can tell that story firsthand. I'm a repat, originally from Buffalo, but I had lived around in a couple of different cities and most recently Seattle. But in any event, those are just some of the different types of conversations we're having with technology professionals, whether they're here locally in our community or they're somewhere else across the country or even internationally.
You just kind of gave me a perfect segue. You mentioned your repat, lived in a couple other cities. I wanted to give our audience a chance to learn just a little bit about your path. You mentioned Seattle, some of the other places that you lived, and kind of how you ended up in this role with Lighthouse Technology Services.
Yeah, so my story I think is somewhat interesting. I'm born and raised here. Lived away, went to a boarding school for a very short period of time, and then came back. Went to Niagara University here. I wanted to be closer to home. I'm from Grand Island originally, and then I was at my dream in life was to be a professional hockey player, and so I was fortunate enough to kind of make it to the minor leagues. My wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we bounced around to a few cities, Atlanta, Chicago, and some others, and then came back to Buffalo when I was done playing hockey and got into human capital management. I was with a Fortune 500 company called ADP, who I spent 10 years with. And so 5 of those years were here, and then 5 of them we relocated out to Seattle, which is where my wife is from originally. And so we lived about 8 years in Seattle. I had 3 of my 4 daughters were born there, and got involved in the entrepreneurship and the technology community out in Seattle, and started my own consulting practice, which did a lot of business process design. So worked with a lot of companies that sold high cost products or services to build integrated kind of business processes and marketing and business development and sales processes into their businesses to better sell their products and services. And then one day, my father was a former CIO who had started our company, Lighthouse Technology Services, in 2004. He called my wife and I in early 2015 to see if we would be open to moving back to Buffalo and getting involved in the business. And so we didn't really have any plans to do that or anything. But what had happened in Seattle is we had just had our third daughter, and our oldest was going into first grade, and a lot of things were changing in terms of the kids doing activities and stuff like that. And Seattle is a really tough city to get around. It's a wonderful city, but if you've got multiple kids in multiple activities after school and even getting into school, it can be really tough as a family to like do all those things, but still find time for each other. And so Buffalo, we knew, had more of that kind of family atmosphere. It was easier to get around, and just real supportive of I think kind of the family ecosystem. And the city of good neighbors is a real thing, right? So we ended up taking the leap, and in summer of 2015 we moved here, and so started with Lighthouse back then, and now I'm the CEO, and here we are today. We now have 4 little girls, and it's been just an incredible move for us, and we're really grateful that we took the leap.
That's great. And a good hockey environment for you, right? And going to Sabres game tonight, you said before we got on.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't mention that, but both my wife and I we grew up playing hockey, and our families all play, and aunts and uncles and cousins and everybody like that. So that was one thing we wanted for our kids too, is to kind of be around that type of a sport and environment that we love. And Buffalo it's a hockey heaven here for sure.
Yeah. So I just want to pivot briefly as we kind of start to land the plane here. I want to talk macroscopically about Buffalo, the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the technology ecosystem. You've touched on it a bit at points, but you mentioned you came back, what was it, 2015, 16 area. What have you seen change in those 7 years?
Well, I can tell you that at least when I was coming out of college, there weren't the types of opportunities that you're seeing today for kids with it doesn't really matter. Like you had mentioned before, your brother didn't have a background in coding, and now he's doing some courses and getting involved in a career doing full stack development. Like, so that type of thing didn't exist all that long ago, where there were options for people to get involved in the technology community. And I think that in Buffalo, at least what I've seen, is there's not just the technology community, but all kinds of business opportunities or job opportunities in manufacturing and other areas. There just seems to be so much more opportunity and a welcoming of people who maybe don't have a long history of working in that community or job experience or anything like that. If you want to get involved, there seems to be the opportunity to do so now. And that's an exciting thing that I don't remember existing, 20 plus years ago when I came out of school here. I can tell you, I've never seen so much construction and development as what we're seeing today, and that's an exciting thing to be a part of. Our business is located in Seneca One, which is just one piece of that I think a lot of people know much more about. But there's so many developments happening, whether it's commercial or residential, in and around the Buffalo community, and it just seems like every day you see a new one, and that's really cool because you can see this growth happening right before your eyes. The one thing that I would say that I've been involved in that's great to have right now that we didn't have before, and this is one of the things I brought with me from Seattle, is this idea of like a centralized place to go to learn more about your opportunities that can exist. And so we created Tech Buffalo, which started in 2017. Myself and a gentleman named Dwayne Connors, is this idea that our community in the area needed a place to go, an organization to connect into, if you wanted to get involved in the technology community. So whether that meant training, understanding what your options are out there, meeting people, careers, jobs, all that type of stuff. And so Tech Buffalo in particular is really getting its legs under it. And it's a nonprofit organization, a 501c3. It's funded by Empire State Development, Ralph Wilson Foundation, and a host of others. And they're really becoming a resource for the community, for anybody that wants to get involved in technology or get a job in technology, get technology education, and so things like that. And Tech Buffalo is just one of a number of different kind of ecosystem building and connecting organizations. And so those are things that just didn't exist all that long ago. And so those are just some of the things that I'm seeing. I'm excited to be a part of some of those things, but I can tell you as a father trying to raise 4 daughters, it's pretty awesome seeing all these opportunities happening here in our community.
Tech Buffalo might be the perfect example, but my last question for you is, as someone that came from Seattle, some, Atlanta, some bigger metros, what do you think are the next steps we need to keep ascending?
Well, there's going to be there's a couple. So the first thing is the continuation of, programs like 43 North, Tech Buffalo, you see the Northland Workforce Training Center, and seeing these types of ecosystem kind of building and community building organizations or places expand into all other areas of the community, whether that's geographically or in different industries. And so, I'm looking forward to seeing that continue and to grow. The second thing is something that Seattle experienced and that I watched with my own eyes is what happens when you have success. What are the challenges that come with it? And so for a very long time, in Buffalo, we were always just looking for good things to happen, right? So I think that there was a long time, like the Bills are a great example. We were losing for a very long time. Well, I think one of the challenges with having a winning team is now all of a sudden there's expectations. And some of that stuff can drive out the wonderful attitudes that come along with the city of good neighbors. So, as we see more economic success, are we watching out for things like gentrification? Is everybody getting an opportunity? Are we capitalizing on what we have, the resources we have before we move on and we get into things like sprawl and that type of stuff? So, I would say I'm really excited about, the next steps that we're already taking in some of these areas, like the entrepreneurship with 43 North, the continued investment in areas like the east side of Buffalo and Northland Workforce Training Center, organizations like Tech Buffalo, and there's many others in the community. I want to see those grow. As we're having success, are we preparing for some of the challenges that come along with it? And I would like to see more of that happening at the same time.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate everything you do for the community here in Western New York and all of your time with us here today. Before I let you go, we always end on a couple hard-hitting blizzard round questions. So first one, if you were a flavor of ice cream, what would you be?
Pistachio.
What's a book or TV show that you'd recommend?
I'd recommend the book Lynchpin by Seth Godin, who's a Buffalo native, but that's an incredible book that I tend to give out as a gift. But it's a wonderful book, no matter where you are in your kind of business, work, or personal life. It's an incredible book on helping people understand how important it is for them to contribute whatever they feel that they have inside to their work and their community.
Awesome. Do you prefer a text or phone call?
Phone call.
How about hiking or skiing?
Hiking.
This is a tough one for you. You're wearing a Bills hat, but going to a Sabres game tonight. Which do you prefer, Bills or Sabres?
I've got to take both. There's no way to pick it.
Can't choose. Okay. Last question. Most importantly, chicken wings. Do you prefer a drumstick or a flat?
I'll take a drumstick, but I'll eat them all.
Fair. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Bellringer is a podcast by Invest Buffalo Niagara, the region's nonprofit, privately funded economic development organization, bringing new jobs for our neighbors and new investment for our neighborhoods. Come grow your business with us.